Good afternoon. It's Bradley McAllister. This is Spiracraft Live. How is everybody? Happy New Year. All that good stuff. I am glad to put 2022 in the back rearview mirror, and let's get forward with 2023. How's that for an elegant speech? Anyway, it's great to be out here at Spiracraft Live. I guess I should turn on my controller, which was unplugged for the last 2 months, and I had it working. It's always something with me, isn't it? Might be hard to switch, but anyway, let's see who all's jumping in here. Michael's in here. Hey, Michael, Rich, and Michael and Rich. All right, guys. So why is my controller? It was up and running. It was up and running. I know the battery's low, but it's plugged in. It's plugged in. Everything's supposed to be working. It's on power. You know what I mean? I won't have to do a lot of switching because I've already set the cameras to pretty much what's going to be going on. But it is kind of fun to be able to change things, or nice to be able to change things over here. And I tested it, I promise you, cross my heart, I tested it and was changing cameras and all the good stuff. And now, of course, it says it doesn't have enough juice, even though it's plugged directly in. You know, one of these days, or not, I'm going to get all this all dialed in, nice and smooth, but then I won't know what to do with myself. But we're going to make some miniatures today, and if I have to just do manual, if I have to run in there and change it, once I get going, as you can see, I've already got the one overlay in place here down in the bottom right corner of the screen. There we go. Point backwards. Haven't turned miniatures in quite a while, and as you know, I'm getting ready to go out on the road with the Woodworking Expos when that comes together. They've been trying to get their shows put together, and one of the classes that I'll be doing out there with the expos is miniatures. So I haven't done them in a long time. They're really fun to do, and when I do the miniature turning, I use the EasyWood Tools micro tools, right? And when these things came out, I had a ball with them. With the woodworking shows, I did a whole seminar on micro tools using these guys, and they're just so much fun to make little teeny things, little teeny goblets or whatever, or little hollow forms. And as I said in the notice, it's really good for your tool control, because when you're doing something that's only 1.5 inches long and 3/4 in diameter, and the wall thickness is a couple of thousandths or whatever, you don't have much room for error, almost none. So it's great for your tool control. It really helps. So that's why this is fun, and it's a good exercise, and it doesn't take a big piece of wood. You can see what's in here, just a little chunk. Get you, some little scraps or whatever. Use it in an end grain like a spindle style. You'll have more strength in them. So, but I got to do a little changing. These are all still set up for resin, and I was thinking about maybe doing a resin piece, but then of course I ran out of time and didn't have the resin piece hanging around. Quickly to find. So this is a piece of maple, been dry forever. But first, let's do a little maintenance. Let's change these cutters around. And maybe while I'm talking, this thing will charge up enough again to work. And I got some fresh cutters over here, and I've got one that I want to sharpen. Show you guys the whole deal. We're going to start out with a square on this. So a little bit of tool maintenance, and I'll keep an eye on the chat box there. It looks like Michael and Rich are chatting back and forth there. It's good to see you guys. I hope you had a great holiday. We took an extended holiday after. There's an email I just sent out. Most of you have probably seen. Right after New Year's, Bridget and I, we went to North Carolina for a short week, if you will. To the western North Carolina mountains, and we hung around there and just relaxed, and then we came back and started the new year. Don't want to jump into that new year too fast, So you're away from home this week, and I'll check out the hotel in about 45 minutes, so hang Hang. Yeah. Well, Michael, whatever you're doing, have fun. Wherever you are and wherever you're going, and be careful. Watch out for the flight delays, as we know that they were rampant yesterday. I'm sure glad I wasn't traveling yesterday. That would have been a real mess. All right, let's see. I've got the square out here. So as always with EasyWood tools, and of course if I had a controller I could change the camera. Let's see if this thing is going to come back yet and talk to me. Well, maybe I'll stick it in the end camera here. I always take my ice pick, so look in the overlay, and I always clean out the screw hole to make sure, the Allen wrench hole, to make sure that my Allen wrench is going to work just right. So we'll kind of do this here on the overlay since I can't change cameras right now. That really irritates me because it was up and running before I turned everything on and went live. Isn't that always the way? Even for me, I actually go ahead and test things and make sure they're working right, and then when I hit the button, they're not. Go figure. So this is the micro, and I'm putting a square, not the radius, I'm putting the true square cutter on here. And actually, I got too many things in my hands at one time. I like to personally put the screw, turn it around, Red, on the Allen wrench. Get it down in there, because it's so hard to hold onto that little teeny screw. You can see it here against the wood, kind of. There you go. So that's really hard to hold on to as it is, especially with these small ones. So then I just drop it in the hole and get her started. Make sure it's square. Always tighten with the short end. That works pretty good using that maple as a backdrop in the overlay. Always tighten with the short end. If you over tighten them, you'll never get them out. All that good stuff. Okay, so there's my square one. Let's take the round negative rake out of here. Get that cleaned out. And I can't remember, one of these I'm going to sharpen. Oh, this is the one I'm going to sharpen up real quick. As you know, or if you don't know, then I'm going to show you, you can resharpen a standard carbide cutter. These negative rake ones, not so much. And this small one takes the CI5. And I have one that I was using before. And I'm just going to do a quick sharpen on it on the diamond card, which I'll do in the overlay. I'll show it to you in the overlay on the diamond card. We'll just use this as our little work surface right here, since of course my camera changer's not working. I've got it on the 600 side. A little bit of lapping fluid that happens to be trimmed. Lapping fluid. Take the cutter, which is so hard to see, put it upside down, spin it around with your finger, and you'll start to see a gray slurry come off on the card. And that's all you've got to do to resharpen a carbide cutter. Real simple, real straightforward. Now, on the bigger cutters, it does take away any markings that were there as far as what model it is or where the numbers were or anything you might have had like that. But that's not the end of the world. So we'll put that there. Don't lose your little wrench, Bradley. Got that. Get our tool up here. Yeah, it was nice taking a break. I hope everybody else, got to get away. So, Michael, you're off. You're away now, out of town visiting. Well, that's cool. AAW's coming up. I got a reminder. I got to give AAW money here by the end of the month for ad in the symposium flyer and the symposium handbook. June will be here before we know it. Thinking of all that stuff. All right, and now On the detail tool, the micro detailer, it has what they call the CI7, which is the pointier cutter than the standard CI4. And this one happens to still have a negative rake on it, so we're going to change it out too. And I'm probably going to grumble all day, so I'll apologize now for my grumbling about my controller, which had come to life and now has stopped. But if that's the least of, or the worst of my problems today, well, then I guess I won't complain too much. You know, it could be worse. I've had worse days out here. You got your hotel booked for AAW? Yes, so do I. And it's interesting that there's no hotel at the convention center. You have to get the closest one to it, which I think is the first time that's ever happened. But that's not a big deal. I think I got one within a couple of blocks or something. Okay, so my tools are ready again. The tools for today's project are the EasyWood tools, micro tools, the round, square, and diamond style, finisher, rougher, detailer, if you will. And I've got a little piece of maple between centers here. I've got a step drive in the chuck and a live center here on the other end, the Rotour live center. I'm using everybody's stuff today. I got an EasyWood chuck, I got a Sorby step drive, I got a Rotour live center, EasyWood tools, just mixing it up the best I can. And I'll probably rough this with a Carter & Son roughing gouge. So let me see one more time if I can get this to come to life. It says it's not plugged in, which doesn't make any sense. Because it is. Now, of course, in this environment, it could be full of dust. Imagine that. You know? Like I say, it came up to life, and it keeps telling me the cord's not plugged in. But I know it is. Because this one here goes to nothing. Yep. So, I don't know what the deal is there. And this guy is on. Well, hopefully it will get some juice in a little while. So what I will do is I will go in and change the camera over to the overhead with the overlay in on the end. Michael Brown, hello, hello. Joe's in here. All right, let's see. Let me walk in here since my controller is playing games with me today, and I'm going to change things over manually in the control room. Glad I have one. And pop you in here and up there. So I've got you all zoomed in today, and theoretically I tested it. Well, I did test it, and theoretically it'll stay in focus when it spins. I mean, you don't really need to see me all that much anyway. I know some folks like to have themselves in one of the screens, but you know, you don't need to see me. And let's see here. Let's see how this guy spins. Now, I probably will adjust the camera after the fact. Once we get this round, get it into the chuck, we'll make adjustments. Oh, try blowing out the port. Hey, you know, that's a good idea, and I've got the air right here. Because this is a dust bowl, as we all know. Let's see if I can get the hose over there. We'll give it a good shot. It may or may not make a difference. I mean, it should run off of just the cord. You know, unless my cord has died off. Let me blow out my USB port too, real quick. You never know. Electronics in a dust bowl are not conducive, as anybody would understand. They don't go well together. Yeah, because it's wild. Like I say, I plugged it or checked it and was changing cameras and all that good stuff. Anyway, we're not going to fuss with it. We're set for now. It'll work. It'll do what we need it to do. Let's go ahead and get this guy round. We'll just grab. You'll see it coming in here. Carter and Son roughing gouge. Today I'm just wearing goggles so the audio will stay a little bit better. Again, think small. We're going to be making a really small today. All right. Let's take her up around 1,000 or so. It's got one side missing, so that's why it's kind of bouncy. It's just a little scrap of maple I had next door. I cut it into a couple of pieces. And we'll make a little tenon down on this far end down here, which you can't quite see in the camera. All right. So we'll try and do as much with these little mini tools as we possibly can. Now you can't quite see me making this tenon, and I don't really want to move the headstock because it's in just the right spot for when the piece is in there. So just imagine me making a tenon, just a simple little tenon down here to go in these chuck jaws. Because I zoomed everything in, which makes it just a little bit tough. To not have to change the cameras around. Let me clean up the bottom of that. Going to be a little 1 3/8 tenon. I don't make them this small very often. Not one that I know off the top of my head. You can just see it in the overlay where I'm starting to come in there. There we go. That should do the trick. Now we'll take our detail tool, put a little dovetail on it. Come back and clean up the corner. Okay, good deal. That should do the trick. We'll turn this around real quick, and then you'll be able to see everything that's going on. Hopefully I got it all right with the size of that tenon. I can't believe it's winter time. Now, while I was gone for Christmas, I know some of you guys, depending on where you're at, had a horrible storm and all. We were in North Georgia, where it was quite cold for Georgia, like 6 degrees. And it was about 16 down here. All right, so that looks pretty good. You can see both ends, you can see the whole profile. All right, good deal. Just to kind of get this thing in shape, I'm going to bring the tailstock back up. Make sure she spins well. There we go. Good deal. Okay, so the question becomes, what do we want to make today? You know, I put up a picture of a goblet. I could do a goblet. I could do a little miniature holoform. I am open to suggestions. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up some more and get it, you know, more true, get it more round. And I will take suggestions or votes for either a holoform, miniature holoform, very miniature, or miniature goblet, captive ring on it, anything like that. And then when we get done turning this today, I'll sand it, and we'll use the Yorkshire grit abrasive paste and clean her up, put a little finish to her. Okay, so first of all though, I'm going to use the micro tool square and just get this into shape a little bit more. And I've got this in here just about right. Then I'm going to take my speed up a little bit. Go up to about 1500 for now. Now when we get into the delicate work, we'll have to slow her back down a bit. Mini holoform, Michael. You want to make it just as hard on me as you can, don't you? So I can go straight in with this cutter in steps, or I can go sideways, either way that I want to. All right, still a little bit more to go. Just right there is a little bit of flat. Mini, Rich, you're too rich. A mini holoform finial with captive ring. Wait till I see you again. Although it could be done. It could be done. I love you guys. I love the challenges. Okay, so I do actually have, and I'm not, again, because of the camera issue, I do have one of the EasyWood Tools mini hollowers here as well. Now it happens to have a negative rake cutter on it, and that would be the tool that I would go inside on the end to do. Looking at the camera now, you guys, bear with me. I'm going to go in and adjust that end camera into the control room. So you can see a little bit better. Oh, wrong direction, Bradley. This is the end camera that has a little bit of the case of the jitters, and I still have it. It only does it when it's zoomed in real close. Okay. But so now you can see everything pretty well. The whole piece and the end. And I'm afraid on that end camera, if I zoom in anymore, it's going to really start to shake. Let's try it and see. See, it gets pretty jittery. But we'll try it there, and if it'll hang tight and not shake too bad, because that's about as close, almost as close as I can get, because that camera is about 5 feet away from the end there. All right, so well, I may just have to come to Florida before you go to AAW and Bike Week so that I can come down there and get in your grill, Rich, which would be fun, just nonetheless. All right, so okay, I'll take the challenge for a miniature holoform. It is going to be a miniature holoform, but that's cool. I'm up for it. I don't mind. This wood right in here is kind of punky. Okay, but we'll give it a go. So let's start making the ball. I'm gonna make one of the ones. I've got some in the house on the shelf, and I put them on a stem. Holoform on a stem. So I like to get the general shape kind of worked out so that when I go inside, I kind of know where I'm going. Mini hollowed whiskey bottle. All right, let's see what we got going on here. So this wood is pretty punky out here. That's unfortunate, and that's the sapwood on the outside of this. This piece is from 2012, and so it's not going to clean up. It's not going to do very well. Now, I'd have to get way down into here. That's a holoform on a stem that is closed. It'll have just one little hole in the very, very top right up here. Now, what I'm saying though here is it's got worm tracks and punky softwood, so the outside of this thing is not going to be stellar, but we're just not going to worry about that, okay? So let's go ahead, take this tailstock out of here. We don't need it. And we'll readjust and let's round off this end. Okay, I'm a fuzz high on the tool, and we're going to drill a little hole down in this guy. Yeah, open would be a goblet. You're right. This may be the smallest one of these I've ever done. But, you know, as they say, that ain't no thing. Hopefully, even if I have to lean over because, you know, this is pretty small. Hopefully, I'm not getting in the way. I'll try and take some more of that off. This is going to be a little guy. Got to have a hole big enough. And now this is where I'm going to show you something. Even though I'm not going to show you on the grinder. Well, you can see right here in the front camera. If you really want to play, you have to grind this tool away. You have to void the warranty. Sorry, Easy Wood Tools. You have to void the warranty, like I've done here on the detail tool. Let me get it up in here. Let me stop this thing from spinning. So you can see how I've ground this section of this tool away to clearance it. So if you modify your tool in that fashion, as Doug Dixon, the sales manager for Easywood Tools, has told me, I avoided the warranty. Well, okay, so be it. I have another one somewhere here. If I can find it real quick, I'm going to show you. I always love pulling this one out when I can find it. I've been known to ow. I've been known to do things to a tool that tend to void the warranty. You can see how well that bent that is. Now that actually was not an issue of the tool, it was an issue of me sticking it into the chuck over here one day and bent that guy right up. I got to figure out a use for it. I got to figure out how to make the cutter go down at an angle, you know. So things happen to tools sometimes. I keep this one around just for yucks. Let's see if we've gotten any kind of life on our controller here while I'm over here. No. Okay. Nonetheless, let's see. I had a little teeny mini drill on a handle here one time. I can't say that I had exactly planned for the mini hollow form. In fact, I hadn't planned for it at all. But if I can find this one particular drill that I'm looking for, it will make my life a lot easier. All right, here we go. So this is just a little twist bit stuck into a handle. Okay, nothing fancy. And we've already started a little depression right here, right? And I need to get that little tick out of there. Otherwise the drill's going to try and run off center. Okay, now I'm going to slow this guy down to drill the hole. Take her down to 250. And hit the emergency switch and that turned it off. All right, so let's put the remote controller up on the lathe so that doesn't happen again. I do that a lot when I lean into the lathe and I got the remote sitting on the side of it. So we'll use that real fancy measuring technique, and that's pretty close. I don't want to go any further than that, I don't think. So now the question becomes, how small can I keep that hole, right? Facebook user finally made it. Great, good deal. I'm in here attempting to make like the miniature hollow form with tools that are bigger than an Allen wrench. So the question will be with this, see this tool's not going to even go in there as it is. He said as it is. So he's going to walk over to his grinder and he's going to void the warranty. Don't tell anybody. See, at least you can't see me doing this. We may still have to make our hole a little bit bigger just because of the size of the shaft. But let's see what happens. That one needs a little tuning as well. Okay. Tool rest comes up just a little bit. Who made 500 pens? Not me. I must have missed that. So what I'm doing is kind of reaching over to the left and going straight down at the same time. Now, I won't try and go around the corner until I see the hole by nature got beat a little bit bigger. But all I'm really trying to do is get down to the bottom depth, and I want to go up a little bit more with my tool rest. You have to actually cut a little bit above center to pull this off. And so I've got my finger as my gauge, and again you can see that's how far down inside I am already, which is about to where I drilled the hole. All right, so let's see. Michael says, as a favor to a family member, I purchased the entire inventory of a pen turner who can no longer turn. I know I'm a dumbass. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but I'll tell you a quick story, just a 2-sentence story, 3-sentence. I was at a woodworking show, and years ago, demonstrating, and a gentleman came up and introduced himself to me and told me his name, and proclaimed, "I've turned over 10,000 pens." And I looked him square in the eye and said, "You poor man." I just can't imagine turning 10,000 pens, but that's me. Okay, so let's see if we can come in here. And now this has a negative rate cutter on it, so it's not going to be as aggressive. And I may change it just because it takes forever. But we're able to get right in there. And this is the 45-degree tool. The arm is bent at 45 degrees. As you can see there in the overlay. And I would change them if my controller would work. I'd switch the overlays. I'm trying to make my controller come back to life one more time. But if you guys are okay looking at the overlay for the end shot, then we'll just leave it that way. Yeah, Rich. Yeah, I held your hand for about 45 minutes talking about high-speed steel tools, and then you came away with 7 or 8 CNS. I remember that day well. You made me earn my money that day. So these come by default from EasyWood. with the negative rate cutter on here. And I'm going to change this out super quick, or as quick as I can, because I don't, it's just so slow. It's not aggressive at all, and that's why they do it. But I'm going to switch this out to with the other CI5 that I've got here. I don't happen to have two of them here with me. So I'm going to change this out real quick. Well, yeah, Rich, better your money than mine. Much better in my pocket than yours. You've got like this corporate job. I'm just the guy who runs Spiracraft. Yeah, the 90, notice, Joe, that I don't have the 90 out for that very reason. It will surprise you is a polite way to put it. And the 45 I'm all good with. The 90 can be a little aggressive, shall we say, sometimes. Let me clean this out. Now, I call this, turning miniatures. There is an entire sect of wood turning that turns true. This thing is on here tight. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it off of here. Dollhouse plates and cups. Matter of fact, a friend of my family's that I knew from being when I was a kid, she's involved in that, and they turn things, whatever the scale is for dollhouse furniture and plates and all that stuff. This one is not going to come out. Oh, maybe, no. That one is in there tight and rounded out. So we're going to have to stay with the negative rake on there. So we'll just put our CI5 back on our regular one. And continue on. And have to work on that one. People will be able to see that I haven't sanded. Well, now, how do you know that I'm not going to sand in there? We haven't gotten to that stage yet. And we're not going to get to that stage. Yeah, you're right, that hole is way too big. But what can I say, right? All right, a little bit more with the 45er here. That's why you start with the smallest hole you possibly can, because you know you're going to beat it up. And I work my way down to the bottom there. So you can figure when it's at 45 degrees, it's pointing straight at the bottom. Yeah, by golly, I think you could almost get your little finger in that hole. Yep, I can. I can get my little finger in that hole. How about that? Okay. We got a little bit more to go. All right, Michael, be careful. Safe travels. See you next week. Thank you for dropping in, as always. At least you don't have to worry about making a lot of chips. So this top section right here is just about the right thickness. I mean, I can't bend my little finger around there, but I can feel it, and it feels pretty good. So I'm actually going to go back to the straight tool because I've gotten to about here. Sorry with my finger there. I'll use my pointer. So I'm about to there with the thinning this wall, the inner wall down to the appropriate thickness. So I'm going to try to go back to my straight tool now because I can feel the ridge. It starts right about there. And because it's got a standard cutter on it, I should be able to move the material out of there faster. We'll see how it goes. See, I'll just come way over here. There we go. And I can move a lot more material. And I just want to be careful trying not to beat up the hole, make the hole any bigger. Now when I put Rich's finial in it, well then it'll fill up the hole anyway. So it won't really matter what size that is. I've got my little nub down there at the bottom now. All right, let's see how that feels. Pretty good. Pretty good. Almost all the way out to here, and then there's a little bit of nub right in the center. So let's get that nub out of the center because it's kind of slowing things down when I come around. So I like to try and get in there, if I can, get underneath it, feel it and get underneath it and just lift up. And trim that away. And see, I've taken a ground away, you know, some of this tip below the cutter as well on this round tool. So I'm going to come all the way back over here again. There we go. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking away this wall section right in here. Very good. So a little teeny bit more right here at the very largest diameter. And I can't go too thin because I'm missing material on the outside here, so I have to be careful. And then I don't want to make this super thin down in here because I haven't finished shaping this. And if I inadvertently cut through, then I've done all this work for nothing. But we'll do a little bit more. Just to keep us honest. Okay, and especially you notice as I'm starting to come out now with the tool, I come out very carefully because you don't want to get to this point and be breaking it. I do grind the bottom of them, as you can see there. They've been ground, Bob. So, and it doesn't hurt the wheel. I just do it off to one side, and I've ground the corner right off of there on this one, and on this one as well. The question is how much, you don't want to make sure, now this one you could take a lot more off, but you don't want to take away too much support, but it's about the threads, being able to keep your threads. Okay, so here's where we switch gears a little bit, and Let me find my paper real quick. And we're not going to get like crazy on finishing this thing. We're just going to do a little bit. Somebody filled my sandpaper box full of wood chips. Oh, I don't know who that could have been. So 220. $120, $220, and $320. That'll be. We'll just use 3 grits on this, and then we'll use the Yorkshire grit. $120, $220, $320. That'll be enough. All right, and I'll have to be careful with the 120. We'll get out the Yorkshire grits. And the reason I'm going to do the sanding and the Yorkshire grit up top here now is that once I turn all this away down to a real small little stem, it's going to be really fragile. So we're going to kind of work our way down with both the sanding and the grits. Get my papers up here, get all my supplies. Ow. This new Nova Nebula, the footprint is a little bit bigger than the Colt that I had in here, and I keep banging my knee into the leg. I got to get used to that. Let me get my paper towels over here. So yeah, we're going to kind of finish and then turn some more, and then finish and then turn. All right. So let's slow this guy down to 500. And let's put it in reverse. I haven't practiced putting it in reverse. There we go. And it'll warn me. There we go. I hadn't been to reverse yet. So, just a little quick light sanding on this. You can see the dust blowing off. I've got a fan blowing. And this maple is actually fairly soft. And when I put the Yorkshire grit on, it's going to darken it up. And then I'll have a line when I start cutting again. I'll have a line. This is kind of the way I made goblets, except this goblet's got a roof on it. This is the part for Michael where we sand the inside. Just on the lip. So it's smooth and not torn up. I don't mind sanding a little project like this in the studio, but I don't want to sand big stuff, do a lot of sanding, big bowl sanding or anything because of all the electronics. So we do, here's going to be the issue using the grit. You can see, hey, my dad's here. Oh, how you doing, Dad? Good to see you. Thanks for dropping in. So see these little pock marks, these pits from just the age and the wormholes? This is going to get filled with the grit, and we'll have to kind of clean it out, as will these over in here. And I mean, it'll polish everything around it, but we're just going to have to come back and clean that out. That's the downside to using the paste without filling these holes. And we'll start with the original grit. That's the microfine. Let's see. Got to grab the right can, Brad. Yeah, there's a little void there in that punky sapwood. That's a fact. Now we could spend time and fill that with lacquer or CA glue and all that stuff, but we're not going to, not today. I'll go gentle on the areas that are where the voids are, but when it starts spinning, it's gonna get some in there. And then you can come back and you can blow it out with compressed air. You can pick it out with ice pick. And have to be careful with the toothbrush. Voids are good. Yeah, I mean, I like voids. Except for when I'm doing something with paste like this. Sometimes they're kind of a bother. And a fresh batch on here. Up to the top and down on the bottom. And I'm going to kick the speed up. I always use a paper towel and don't overheat it. You can crack them. And I'll do this. I'll take another clean rag, and then I'll switch over to the microfine, and do the same thing. Okay. So you can see we get a nice finish. I mean, you can see the sheen coming up already, and we only sanded to 320. Put that over there. And I'm just going to clean this off for sure. Paper towels are cheap. And then we'll do the same thing with the microfine. And then the top section, say to about, well, it's kind of hard to point. To somewhere right in the valley here, we'll be done. We won't come back up there, depending on wherever the tool comes to when we cut the stem. Okay. Okay. Now a little microfine just to finish polishing it. I don't have any wax in here. It's next door, so we're not going to put wax on it today. But you get the idea. So 2 steps, the Yorkshire Grit Original, and then the microfine. And you could do a sanding sealer beforehand as well, if you're so inclined, and get even a little bit nicer finish, if you want to make that extra step. But it's amazing how well this comes out just with these pastes, and only sanded 120, 220, 320 right off the tools. And now here's a clean section of the paper towel. And there's the finish, as you can see. Nice sheen on that with no fuss, no muss, no fuss, all that good stuff. Okay. So you can see the studio lights reflecting in there. That's quite nice. All right, so now it's time to make our stem and a little base. I've put it back into the forward mode. I'm going to go back with my round tool, and I'm looking at the, you should be able to see everything pretty well here. Okay. Looks like I'm a little high because I raised it up from when I was inside, so I'm going to lower that back down. Again, these are great little projects. It doesn't take a big piece of wood, and it's wonderful for your eye-hand control and tool control. And we're turning at 1,000. Oh, I'm still in reverse. Sorry about that. Now we can go forward. So what I want to do is define somewhere right in here as where I don't want to go above that certain where that mark is. I'm confident that I relatively, and I can double check it with my finger here, I'm confident that I have enough material right there that I can carve away more behind this and not go into my hollow cavity. If I get up above there, I'll go through the wall. So that's why I like to put the finish on beforehand, like that, along with the fact that this will be a really thin stem here in a little bit. The other thing that's nice to do is kind of decide just how big it's going to be, where your base is going to be. So just for the moment, I'm going to decide that, and I'm just putting a little mark in there, just a reference, just a visual reference to work to. And I'm going to say that so that will be my base, more or less, theoretically. Okay? And I want to turn this up some more, and I don't have any more speed on a preset. So I'm dialing it manually up to 1500. So again, the key is I just ease in or kind of feather the cut in from right here. And now it's a matter of aesthetics and bravery as to just how small you make your stem, because this will start to flex and you can hear it starting to vibrate. Now I could bring the tailstock up and support this and stick it in there if I want to, or not. It'll stop that vibration. I'm trying to decide if I want to bother with it or not. So So you can't see me, but I'm kind of turning my head sideways and looking at the proportions. And I've decided that I want to make that base smaller in diameter, so I grabbed a square tool. Let's take that down a little bit. Rubber chucky, well, the hole is so small, you could use a rubber chucky. Sure, I've got cones and I could put it on there, and they work great. I really just don't feel like pulling the tailstock back up here, quite honestly. And I'm about done going up on the ball there. If you're just gentle with the tool, it's not a problem. And another thing you can do, I've got a parting tool floating around here somewhere. And if I just want to come in here and say, that's what I'm going to part it off with anyway. That gives me my area to work to. That way I can take some of this away, and let's say I want to taper this base back down like that. I needed to take that extra material away anyhow. And then we can just kind of play with this until we're satisfied. Yeah, like I say, you can support it in a number of ways. If you feel the need to. You bring your tailstock up. You could make a little steady rest. If you put your finger on here, you're likely to push on it. I mean, you can do that. But if you're light with the tool, relatively speaking, you don't really have to. Okay, let's stop this and take a look. Okay, so there's a little chatter right in here. You can see the chatter right there at the transition from the vibration. I'll bet you dimes to donuts that especially with the 120, that sands right out of there. Okay. So, how are we doing on time anyway? 2:11, okay. Let's slow this guy back down. And let's put him back in reverse. And we will sand on this. Now I may support it when sanding. Sometimes I use the tool rest as a hand support and sometimes I don't. So I'm just going to blend this in, and I will go up onto the finished area a little bit to help cut that down. And blend it in. If not, you end up with a little hump right there. And you can see it starting to warp on its own anyhow. And this is our Indasa sandpaper. This stuff lasts forever. It is a premium sandpaper, but you can use it. It's not like your stuff you get you know, 20 sheets, 20 discs for $2. This lasts a long, long, long time. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's take a look at hitting it with the 220, and we'll go over the whole thing. We'll get our 120 scratches out of here. Now I will clog the paper a little bit if I'm not careful with that finish on it. So you can see that I'm rotating the paper around. And other than that, we're just getting our tool marks out. You can see how it gets a little loaded up there. But the grit, the Yorkshire grit, will also really help take a lot of this out. Let's take a quick look at this, see how that looks. That looks pretty good. I think to hit a 320 and time for grit. And again, I'm sanding at 250. In reverse. Good thing I cut my fingernails before going live today, hey. And I'm curious about my controller here, if it's got a pulse yet. It's still saying it's not plugged in. Well, that really stinks. We'll have to fix that for next week. So it doesn't hurt for me to put my fingers up here now. It slides nice and smooth if I do want to support it. And we'll just blend all that in real nice. Because you don't want to snap that off at this point. Let's make sure we've got all the tool marks out of it. We don't need to go back on anything. That looks pretty good. There's a little bit right in here, okay? There's just a little section right in where that transition is, and that's where you're gonna have a little trouble sometimes if you're gonna have trouble. So I'm gonna jump back to 220. And just right in this section right here, I'll 220 this again, and then come back with the 320. Just right in the transition. The grit will probably take it out, but since it's up here where you can't really lean on it real hard, you can't put a lot of pressure on it. And then back to 320. Jeff Peters, they made me go miniature holoform today. Well, Mike McEwen made me go miniature holoform, and then he had to leave. But we're having fun. So to catch you up, Jeff, we've made a little holoform out of maple. We hollowed it with all the micro tools and the 45-degree EasyWood mini hollower. And then we are using Indasa sandpaper, 120, 220, 320, and Yorkshire grit original, and then microfine to put a finish on this little guy. So I'll stop it. Fresh paper towels, which I don't think that paper towel is going to get in the way. I'll keep them down here anyway. Yeah, it looks good. As long as I don't break it, I'll be in good shape, Jeff. So I always like to put the first batch on by hand. That gets it down in the wood grain. All right. Yes, I know I'm in reverse. Thank you. Take the speed up a little bit. Now I will go ahead and hold on to it just up here on the very top with my fingers. And I'll blend back in, come back up over where we've already been. That's okay. Pick up another batch of grit. Again, going all the way up to the center of the hollow part. Let's go ahead and hit it with a clean cloth and see how it's starting to feel. Take off the extra grit. It is pretty amazing how well this works. Now I haven't really turned it fast enough to start to buff it. But you can see how the finish is starting to come up. And all our scratches, all our sand scratches have disappeared. And that was the key in this first round. All right, there's still a little coarseness right in on the top and the end grain in here. So we're going to hit it again because we want our base to be nice. Now we're going to go ahead and turn the speed up too. We'll turn her up to 750. And here's where I need to do the work. The bulk of the work is right down here on this base. We'll work that real good. Yeah, I can feel it starting to smooth up. It still had a little, it was kind of not furry, but felt like about 320 sandpaper. Again, we'll blend. And now let's go ahead and take her up to 1,000. And we'll start to polish with the grit still on there. You can see the sheen starting to come up. And then I'll get a fresh, clean paper towel. Take all of the Yorkshire Grit original off before we go to the microfine. Always use a paper towel because it'll tear if it was to try and catch. Don't use your t-shirts and cloth rags. Microfiber rags, if it's spinning, don't use that. All right. That's looking pretty good. So now we'll switch over to the microfine, and that'll be the final finish on it. And luckily, I haven't filled the voids overly with paste. I've been very careful with the paste and used it sparingly. Oh, Jeff, I never get crazy. I do snap things off occasionally, but I don't ever get crazy. I am being very careful, as you can imagine. And you can see it's got the flex in it. So, I mean, these are fun little projects. And again, it's a little teeny piece of wood, but great practice. Great practice. And I'm just kind of keeping the fingers on the back side a little bit when I'm up there on the top. We'll give it a little polish, and then I'll go ahead and put another little dose on here. One more little splash. And now a clean rag, we'll take it all off, buff it as well as we can. Get all the excess off. Again, I'm turning about 1,000 RPMs. All right, let's take a look. Looks pretty good for just a little scrap of wood. Like I say, you can see the flex. I put my finger in here and move it. But surprisingly strong, okay? Surprisingly strong, he says just before he breaks it. So the last thing to do is to part it off. Carefully. Put it back into forward. Knock her down to about 750. Get out our parting tool. And this is where you run the biggest risk of marring the finish if it gets away from you as you part it. And we're going to want to cut a slight undercut to it so that it'll sit nice and flat. So we're going to get rid of some extra wood here. These are just fun little projects. So I just keep making myself more room underneath. And you can actually watch the cuts on the bottom to minimize your tool cuts, to minimize the sanding, for that very last bit that you're going to when you go to sand it. I'm one of those that, if I've got a tool in my hand, I don't want to change tools more than I have to. So if I can use the parting tool just to take some of this waste out of here, that's what I'm going to do. All right, and I'll come up here, and I think I'll use a paper towel to kind of hold on to that so it'll spin nice and easy in my hand and I won't get any friction. Let's make that last little putt. And so I have just a little teeny nub. Get that down in focus. Just a little teeny nub on the bottom, no other real tool marks to speak of. One about the size of a dime there maybe, just outside of that, but that'll sand off pretty easy. And so there is our finished little piece. Right, I know it's just about got the camera filled up. You can see down inside, respectably hollowed. Just sanded the rim, didn't sand. All the way down inside it. That's okay. And in the end camera, well, you can't see too much in the end camera. But great little guy, fun little piece to make. I'm gonna set it up here, and I'm going to go change the camera because my controller won't work over to the front. Just like that, and take off the overlay if I can. Oh, I don't know if I can get rid of the overlay now because my other controller is not working. I can, but I'm not going to. I'll just leave it there. All right, now did we have fun? I had fun. So there's my little piece. Again, gives you, now you have a perspective of size. Of course, you could see it, against my hand when I was working. Great little project, simple. Just takes a scrap of wood. Nothing much at all. I actually brought in a little piece of walnut as well that I could have made one out of. Fun projects, couple of small tools. Great for your tool control. Because again, that wall thickness, it's not paper thin. I didn't use a flashlight and all that kind of stuff to make it where you can see through it. But respectable thickness for sure. And again, great for your tool control. A lot of fun to make. Doesn't take a lot of wood. A couple of little simple tools. And that's how you make a miniature. Lots of fun. So 2:30. I have no idea how many folks are around. But if anybody's got any kind of questions, pop them in the chat column. Whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, I see them both. Happy to answer any questions. I'll hang around for a couple minutes, and then we'll probably call it a day. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing this. I always like making miniatures. I do these little water droplets in resin, and it's kind of like a little cup and then a little bulb, like a water droplet that's splashing back up. And I've got a video, it's online and all, where you can see the tool starts to catch and the little bulb flexes and then comes back and doesn't break. It's pretty cool. They're fun to make. You could push the envelope. If you break one, hey, no big deal. It's just a little piece of wood. So it's a great way to push yourself and see just how fine and how light you can control with your tool. Again, I didn't support that on purpose. Yes, the comments about supporting it, absolutely, you can support it if you want to, and that's going to essentially assure that you're not going to break it. But at some point, go ahead and try doing it without using the support. It will help you to lighten up your touch and help you with that tool control so that you really have a feel for just what you can and can't do. It just helps. It just helps with the eye-hand coordination and the pressure and all that. All right, so I'm looking and I don't see any questions. No? Well, I hope everybody had fun. And next week, I'm not sure what I'll be up to next week out here, but you can be sure that it'll be something. I'll come up with a new plan every week. I love being out here in the studio. It's about the only time I get to turn these days. If you do have questions after the fact, feel free to contact me through Facebook on Messenger, or you can comment if you see this after the fact in the comments, and I'll see it'll pop up that there was a comment on the video, and I'll always try and get back to you. Shoot me a note. Let me know if you go to Spiracraft. Oh, I haven't mentioned this today. Still have a special on the Proform hollowing systems. The kits, the starter kit, which is a handle and the straight shaft. The intermediate, which is the handle, the straight shaft, and the bent shaft. And the advanced, which is the handle, straight shaft, bent shaft, and slightly bent shaft. They're all 25% off in Spiracraft right now. There's my sales pitch for the day. The Woodcut Tools Proform hollowing system kits are on sale. All right, well, I'm going to walk in, since I can't do it with my controller here, and hit the exit video, and I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it, and have a good time.